So what is it that makes this Ramadan different from all other times and months of the year? We have already heard that it is a time, it is a period when every action in it during this duration receives an increase, the like of which is not happening at any other time of the year. من تقرب فيه بخصة من الخير كان كمن أدى فريضة فيما سواه. Whoever draws nearer in this month with some character trait of goodness, with some action of goodness, it is like a voluntary goodness, it's like he has performed an obligatory act, a wajib act in other than this month. Whoever performs their regular voluntary duties during this month, it is as if he has done 70 of them in other than this month. There is something about Ramadan which is fundamentally in its binya tahtiyah, in the underpinnings, undergirding of this month is fundamentally different than any other time of the year. And the second point of the difference of Ramadan is that the gates of the heavens are flung wide open during Ramadan. Abu Hurairah, in الترمذي إذا كان أول ليلة من شهر رمضان سفلت الشياطين ومرضت الجن وغلقت أبواب النار فلم يفتح منها باب وفتحت أبواب الجنة. When it is the first night of this period of Ramadan, upon its first inception, the devils and rebellious jinn are shackled and the gates of the fire are shut. None of them will be opened and the gates of the garden are flung open. Brothers, they're not just opened. Futihat. He didn't say futihat. B'shadda. وزيادة المباني يدل على زيادة المعاني. فتحت, they are flung open, and they will not be shut again for the duration of this month. There is something different about Ramadan. These qualities set this month apart from other months. This is a quality, though, not of a thing. It is an adjective, not of a thing, a descriptor, not of a thing, but the quality of a period of time. Not of a thing. And these qualities of a time, then, are something that cannot be seen. So we know it, we realize that we believe in the unseen, but how does this play out? And Allah says, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. And remind them of the days of Allah. Verily, in them are signs for those who are patient and grateful. Brothers and sisters, there are sacred times and sacred places, and Ramadan is a sacred time, and it is this otherworldly, ghaibi quality that provides the sacred element to this sacred time. But what does it mean for something to be sacred? As we English-speaking Muslims attempt to understand the Islamic worldview and claim it for our own out here in the wilderness of a non-Muslim world, or we children of modernity in the post-colonial Muslim heartland attempt to recover what was lost by decades of godless nationalist ideology. So to help us with this, the Oxford English Dictionary tells us sacred. The sacred is what is connected with the divine or dedicated to a religious purpose and so deserving veneration, consecrated, esteemed, especially dear to a deity, set apart, or exclusively appropriated for or dedicated to some religious purpose, and hence entitled to veneration or respect, secured by religious sentiments, or sense of justice, or protected by some sanction from violence, injury, or incursion. The sacred is something that is devoted to some purpose, not to be lightly intruded upon or handled. Not to be lightly intruded upon or handled. We know of sacred things. Things that are sacred because of a particular quality that sets them apart or differentiates them from other similar things. For instance, the Mus'haf is a sacred object. إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ لَا يَمَسُّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ. No one touches it except the pure. It is a book and there are other books. But this book, you cannot even approach it until you have gone through ritual, ablution, and purification. And this cannot be said of other books. This is the sacredness, a sign of the sacredness of the Quran. These are sacred things, objects, but there are just as importantly sacred spaces and sacred times. And Allah says, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. And remind them of the days of Allah. Verily in them are signs for those who are patient and grateful. An example of sacred spaces would include the sacred precincts of the hijab. Within their boundaries, the miqat, certain things are prohibited, haramun, for the pilgrim and muhrim, and sometimes for the residents alike. And this is not the case with other places and spaces in this material dunyawi world. The great mosques of Mecca and Medina, i'tikaf and prayer have a very special increased reward in them. In the Masjid of Jerusalem, they are sites that the pilgrimage to them is an act of devotion and worship in and of itself, and this is not the case for other spaces and places of our material dunyawi worlds. The houses of Allah in general, there are specific ways, adab and etiquettes, to which we adhere when we are in the houses of Allah. Isn't that right, young Muslims? There are specific ways that we act when we were in the masjid that is different than the behavior that is acceptable outside of the masjid. You got me? Right? We understand that. The masjid is different than the world outside. It is the house of Allah. First and foremost, if you find yourself on any day of the week walking into the mosque, or you say, you know, I think I'll go by the mosque today, whether because you want to join the prayer or because you forgot something and left it there. Even if you forgot something, or someone's in there and you need to tell them something, know that you have received an invitation from Allah into His house. Because no one does anything in this world except that it is for a purpose, a design by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you find yourself in this place, know that Allah wants you. Because there are a lot of people out there right now today, Allah doesn't want them. At least not now. Maybe something will change in the future. But if you find yourself here, know that something is going on and respond. Be responsive to what Allah is trying to manifest to you. What Allah is manifesting to you of lessons in this book of creation that can be read for those who have this consciousness. The houses of Allah are a place in the earth that are consecrated through the action of endowment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and thereby its rulings and ahkam are not like any other place on the earth, and this is not the case with other places and spaces in the material dunyawi world, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. And remind them of the days of Allah. Verily in them are signs for everyone who is patient and grateful. And as for sacred times, it is somehow a sacred time, is somehow different than all other times. It is set apart from other times. Something about its ontological reality is altered. It is as if it is a metaphysical portal through which we gain access to another dimension of reality, because for the Muslim, reality is multidimensional. But how conscious are we of taking in the full spectrum of what is reality? Muslims need to revive the study and teaching of metaphysics. We have much to contribute to this new area that is receiving much more attention from Western theologians once more in their history. But it requires some courage to be a knowledge leader and not a knowledge follower. We've got all types of people who are worried about whether or not they are muqaddideen of the great scholars in sacred law. But in the very circumstances of their existence in the world, they have no new ideas. And are muqaddideen of the kuffar and their data and their epistemological paradigms and corporate applications. What these Muslims lack in wisdom, they make up for in bold foolhardiness. Brothers and sisters, Hajj is a sacred time in the year. Hajj is Arafah, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, meaning the day, the period of sunlight from sunrise to sunset of Arafah, and no other time frame but that of the 9th of Dhul Hijjah will suffice. A sacred time. And this is not the case with other moments of time in this material dunya existence. There are sacred months. Muharram, Dhul Hijjah, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Rajab al-Fard. Right? Dhul Qa'dah is the 11th month. Dhul Hijjah is the 12th month. And Muharram is the first. Those three are together, and that's why Rajab is always called Rajab al-Fard. And this is not the case with other moments of time in this material dunya existence. Ramadan, brothers and sisters, is a sacred time. It is an envelope of time when rewards are doubled, when the heavens are opened, when there is a special mercy, forgiveness, and potential to be one of those elected for freedom from the fire. Brothers and sisters, this is the big lottery ticket. If you win this jackpot, you really won something that is more priceless than $50 million or whatever it happens to be this time around. But it's different in that your investment is never wasted. And you stand more of a chance of winning here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more generous than any state lottery commission. And this is not the case with other moments of time in this material dunya existence. وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. Our belief in the unseen, brothers and sisters, is reified. It is made real by the believers demonstrating a conscious awareness of sacred times and sacred spaces. Meaning this belief that we have in the unseen is brought out of the books, out of our minds and hearts, and into the existence in which we operate by the fact that the believer demonstrates that they have a consciousness of sacred times and sacred places.